Well, it is a Wednesday, and that means we have our weekly feature Going Green. Today's focus is going to be on the polluted Vaal area. And to discuss this situation in depth, I'm joined by our reporter Maageketla Mohlabe, who was, of course, responsible for the piece that you just saw there. I mean, it's absolutely shocking to see the images. And what's extraordinary about this story is, certainly in my work as a journalist, I remember being in the Vaal reporting on exactly these types of stories from that area, as early as 10 years ago, and it doesn't seem like it's changed. If anything, it's just got worse. Nothing,
almost nothing, in fact, has changed. I mean, Vaal, a looming disaster, a looming humanitarian crisis that you come across there. When you walk in the street, right in the streets of the Vaal, more especially Sebokeng area, you see manholes seeping with raw sewage. There are kids playing around the raw sewage, and you go into the villages or into the township where more especially there are RDP houses built. You see raw sewage seeping from the walls of the houses. You see young people as well walking around. They are now used to the situation, but this is a crisis. So I think they will start breathing fresh air since the arrival of over 200 soldiers that are there now on site to fix the situation. So the first station that we went to, that is the wastewater treatment plant in Sebokeng, that's where the soldiers are at this point.
Right.
So that's where everything is blocked. In fact, when you, let me just give a scenario. When you flush your toilet, for example, in a story that I did, this waste should go to a manhole, and this manhole should push the waste to a nearest pump station. But none of those are working. In other words, this waste now is pushed back into your house. So the pump station is blocked, as well as the water treatment plant blocked. So almost nothing is working here in this case.
So, I mean, what's the explanation? Because we've seen, for example, the Human Rights Commission is looking into this. We'll talk about the Army's involvement in just a moment. But given then the level of the crisis that you are describing, what's the explanation from the local officials?
In fact, the Defense Minister, Mapisa, arrived on Friday in the area at the same plant station that we were. She mentioned that ever since 1994, obviously, municipalities were given responsibility to take care of these infrastructures. But of course, due to the demand of people, obviously, population growing in the area, the infrastructure cannot sustain the population. She referred to the fact that this infrastructure was designed for smaller numbers, despite
That's
the
typical politician's explanation they give us, because there's a lot of evidence that would suggest there hasn't been the kind of maintenance that there should have been on, those plants, those water treatment facilities, but also a lot of the people that should be fixing that situations have simply been let go.
Absolutely, and on the other side, the municipality, more especially Mfuleni municipality, saying that this has nothing to do with maladministration. This is an institutional problem that they've come across, which is why they've actually committed to hire at least 100 artisans to come through, so that as soon as the soldiers leave the area in December 2019, they will remain behind taking care of this particular system.
Well, can there be any greater admission of absolute failure by a municipality than the deployment of the military? We're joined now on the line to be part of this conversation by the SANDF's Col Andries Mahapa on the line. Colonel, good evening to you. Just explain to us the role that SANDF troops are going to be playing down in the Vaal.
We have a critical role to play as SANDF. If I may take you back just to put it in context, the SANDF has two functions with regard to the Republic. The primary function, we have to defend the territory and the independence of the country. Now, the secondary function, which is support to the people, that is precisely what we are doing here. We are called, with the request of the Minister of Finance, Honorable Tito Mboweni, to come and assist at Mfuleni. we are bringing with here some expertise. I'm talking about civil engineers. I'm talking about water care specialists. I'm talking about all construction, vertical and horizontal construction.
Sure.
Together with all artisans who are going to take part in terms of minimizing the impact with regard to environmental non-compliance about sanitation.
Colonel, obviously whatever involvement you may have, it's really a stopgap measure to deal with the crisis as we have it. In the long run, this is still something the municipality is going to have to fix for itself.
Yes, it's true, because eventually this is not our role responsibility. We are only here just for intervention. After 12 months, we are going to demop and return back to base. So the municipality need to take over and sustain our intervention, which is very critical. They need to come off the blocks. But however, military is not the only a role player here. We've got Department of Water Affairs. We've got the other, like Kokta is also involved. We've got Rand Water. So we are all putting hands in the mud to try and help the Mfuleni local municipality. But we are confident that before the end 2019, we'll be in a position to put the operation in a good standing order.
All right, just talk to me then about how that is going to unfold in the coming months. As you say, you've outlined until 2019, the end of next year. What is it precisely you're going to be doing there to try and help the situation?
All right. In consultation with the local municipality in Fulani in particular, because this job is too huge, we have to put it down in different sub-projects. The priority that we are currently doing now, which is priority 1, we have priority 1 until priority 3. Priority 1, we have to attend the wastewater treatment plant and the 4 substations which are channeling into the wastewater treatment plant of Sebokeng. That's what we are busy with. On Monday, we started cleaning the PST. When we are finished with the PST, then we'll go to the secondary settling tank, so that those 2 must be operational, and then we go and attend to the 4 pump stations which are channeling into Sebokeng. Once that is done, we'll be in a position to say, yes, we have managed to minimize the spillage within Sebokeng itself closely with the pump stations. Once we are done, we'll go to the second priority, which is Lukale. Lukale has plus minus 2 pump stations. That it will be easy because it's only 2 pump stations. Sure. But the main concern here is to stop the spillage within the local community, which is the worst form of pollution currently that we are facing. Then the third, which is the last priority, is a risk spread with 36 pump stations. That is the biggest job that we have to undertake there. So right. that is our approach.
Right, Colonel, I'll keep you holding on the line. Let me come back to our reporter, Maageketla. I mean, the Colonel there mentions that obviously this is not their role, certainly not in the long term, but the number of other players here, stakeholders that should be also asked tough questions, the Department of Water and Sanitation, for example, Kokta. So it's not just the municipality that has failed. What are the authorities saying about those stakeholders and what they should have done to deal with this?
Obviously, they talk about lack of capacity that they've seen over the past 20 years in terms of dealing with this kind of situation. And of course,
they've been warned. There are organizations in the Vaal who've been highlighting the mess, not only of the dam, but also of the river. As you say, the residents certainly can't be sitting on this kind of mess and saying nothing about it. What do they mean it's a lack of capacity? Did they not know?
Well, we're not sure about that. On the other side, of course, they're blaming this on vandalism. And I remember Nosiviwe Mapisangakula also saying that they may have to require government to really declare these infrastructures national key points in order to bring tight security around it. So that remains to be seen if it will work. Sounds
to me like it's excuses, excuses, excuses. The residents, no doubt, must be very, very angry, must be very frustrated. What are they telling you?
Absolutely. And let's not forget that as we are speaking, the waste that we saw in that package is flowing into Vaal River.
So what are the people on the ground saying?
That's the situation. Obviously, they've been complaining since 2008, and that's not only people around Mfuleni municipality. We also know about people around Mid-Vaal municipality. They've been complaining about the stench in the air that they've been breathing, that they've been experiencing. So they've actually been asking for intervention and saying that their pleas have been falling on deaf ears. So I think since the army is in the area, they can start breathing the fresh air now.
Right, let's wrap it up then with the Colonel. Colonel Mahapa, you are obviously, as we know now, on the ground there with water specialists and water scientists from the army. In terms of what you have seen in situations like this before, is this one of the worst examples, or have you seen others that might be, even more shocking than this?
No, this is the worst. This is the worst that we've seen. But yes, we are up for the task, and then we'll be in a position to try and solve it so that the people of Mfuleni must live a normal life. I mean, what they are facing on a daily basis is uncalled for, It's uncalled for.
Maageketla talks about how officials there have mentioned the issue of capacity being one of the constraints. Is there some kind of project plan to be able to transfer some of the skills, some of the work that you're doing, so that there will be people to continue it when you are gone?
Definitely so. Take into account that we have tradesmen and women, which is the skills that will be easily transferable. So once we are working with municipality, then municipality and local councillors, through the executive mayor, obviously they have to bring the community on board so that we transfer these skills, so that when we pull out, then the municipality must be in a position to sustain the whole project.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you for your time, Col Andries Mahapa, there with the South African National Defence Force, trying to assist the situation in the Vaal. Maageketla, your final parting shot. I mean, there are people who are looking at this intervention and they might easily, cynically say, look, this is like putting a plaster on a gaping wound.
And of course, not forgetting that Bongani, Mfuleni municipality is not the only municipality that's been affected. We understand that 57 municipalities are also affected across the country. 5 billion rand has been put aside to actually intervene. Of course, not all municipalities require the intervention by the SANDF, as we know.
All right, we'll have to leave it there with our reporter, Maageketla Mohlabe. You'll not, of course, forget that as far as the Auditor General is concerned, it's the Water Affairs and Sanitation Department that was the worst offender in terms of irregular expenditure. And the question one might well ask is, could some of that money have been used to try and mitigate against a crisis like this? Stay with us. We've got your sports next after this quick break.